Something massive is quietly building beneath the surface of global finance. And if you blink, you might miss one of the most controversial currency stories of our time. Because 2026 is being whispered about in financial circles as a year that could reshape expectations around the Iraqi dinar. So before we go any further, stay with me till the end, because what you're about to hear is not hype or fantasy, but a grounded journey through real global pressures, economic signals, and human decisions that could collide in unexpected ways. And this story matters because it's not just about money, it's about timing, patience, and how global power shifts ripple into places most people ignore. For decades, Iraq's economy has lived under the shadow of oil, conflict, sanctions, and rebuilding. And millions outside the country have watched the dinar with hope, skepticism, and confusion, wondering whether it could ever escape the weight of its past. And now the world itself is changing fast, with energy markets shaking, geopolitical alliances shifting, and governments everywhere struggling with debt, inflation, and public pressure, creating a rare moment where smaller economies can either be crushed or quietly reposition themselves. As we move deeper into this journey, consider this question for yourself. What happens when a resource-rich nation sits at the center of global energy routes while the world desperately searches for stability? Because Iraq today is not the Iraq of headlines from years ago. It is rebuilding infrastructure, renegotiating trade relationships, and attempting to modernize its banking system while managing internal political tensions. And every one of these steps sends signals into currency markets whether people realize it or not. Analysts watching oil demand cycles see 2026 as a potential turning point where supply discipline, regional cooperation, and energy transition pressures could temporarily lift revenues. And when oil money flows, government budgets breathe. Foreign reserves stabilize, and central banks gain room to maneuver. Yet here is where the tension rises. Because money alone does not create trust, and trust is what currencies live on. Inside Iraq, reform is slow, sometimes frustratingly so. But even incremental changes in payment systems, cross-border settlements, and banking transparency can alter perception. And perception is often more powerful than reality in financial markets. Which is why even small policy shifts can trigger outsized reactions among investors and observers. This brings us closer to the emotional core of the story. Because many people are waiting for a dramatic moment, a sudden overnight revaluation, a shock that rewrites personal fortunes. But history teaches us that currencies rarely move like lightning. They move like tides, slow, patient, and shaped by forces far beyond a single announcement. And as global institutions quietly pressure Iraq to diversify beyond oil, strengthen governance, and integrate more deeply into international systems, the possibility emerges not of a miracle, but of gradual credibility, and credibility is the real currency. Now imagine the climax of this journey. A world in 2026 facing fragile energy security, strained major economies, and investors hunting for stability in unexpected places, where even a modest signal of consistency from Iraq could spark renewed attention. Not because the dinar suddenly becomes strong, but because it becomes predictable, and predictability is rare in uncertain times. This is where expectations collide with reality, where hope must be balanced with patience, and where understanding beats rumors. Because those who truly benefit are not chasing noise but watching structure. Watching policy, watching behavior over time. As the story settles, the takeaway becomes clear and quietly powerful. Real value is built, not announced. And any future movement in the Iraqi dinar will reflect years of decisions, discipline, and global alignment, rather than a single headline. And in this moment, it's worth asking yourself not when something will happen, but whether you understand what actually drives it. If this perspective made you pause or rethink what you thought you knew, stay connected, because this journey isn't finished. It's unfolding, and the next chapter will depend on choices being made right now. So, if you want to keep following this story with clarity instead of confusion, support the channel, share your thoughts below, and stay with us for the next deep dive as we continue tracking the signals that most people overlook.